Let's just hope that after this episode I'm not going to be sued by a pharmaceutical company. Okay? Welcome back to GFN, the home of your latest gluten-free news. I'm Morgan. Let's look at the headlines. Hello my friends, welcome to GFN. It's December, so I think a change of attire is in order. Wow. Hello, long time no see. Let's have a quick catch up. What's been going on? This is the first video I've posted in probably a couple of months. Apologies for that. Recently I have started a new job, so that has sort of taken priority, of course, as it should. It is a wonderful job and I'm very grateful to have it. But I've just been letting myself ease into it, and I've taken a step back from social media just for a wee while I get myself settled in, while I get myself a new routine, because if I'm trying to do too many things at once, I'll get sick. This won't be the last video for the year, however, because I do still have my annual gluten-free food awards. There's categories, and I'm going to tell you my favourite things in the gluten-free world this year, and there are some goodies and some really fun categories, so I'm looking forward to that. That will be out just before New Year's. But today is GFN. We haven't had a GFN in a while, so there is a bit of news. If you are caught up with me on Instagram, you'll probably know the main story that we're going to be talking about today, which has to do with Glute Guard, which is a new drug in the market to help people with gluten sensitivities, but we'll get to that later. Let's start with zooming through the gluten-free news that we've had in the last couple of months. So, firstly, we've got a bit of a sad news. Last month we said goodbye to one of the loveliest gluten-free bakeries in London. We said goodbye to Pearl and Groove. They have decided to move on from their business in Exmouth Market, and maybe we'll be seeing something in the future for them. I did head by in the week that they were closing and picked up some of the last goodies. If you haven't heard of Pearl and Groove, they are the absolute top tier of cake making, in my opinion, for gluten-free cakes. And they just made the most delightful little mini loaf cakes. I've had chocolate, I got a salted popcorn one, caramel, Earl Grey. If you watch my Vlogmas from last year, I went there on one of the days and they did a mini gluten-free Yule log. It was such a lovely place and very sad to say goodbye, but wishing them all the best for their next adventures. Who knows, we might see them back in a different capacity. I'll let you know. Now, in Oreo news, unfortunately, no, they are not coming to the UK as of yet, but they are releasing a new flavour. So at the moment we've got the gluten-free classic, the gluten-free double stuffed, and drum roll please, now we're going to get mint. Mint Oreo flavour. Probably not the one I would have gone for. I would have gone probably something more classic, like just like the chocolate filling one, but hey, who am I to judge? I might have to wrangle a US friend to send some or bring some back and we can do a bit of a taste test. But yeah, mint. Next up, and I can't believe that wasn't an option before news, ANA Airlines have introduced gluten-free meals to their in-flight selection. Exciting news because Japan is back open for business, so it probably will affect some of you if you choose to fly with them. So that's good, nice. Coeliac UK urging suppliers to back its labelling scheme. Now, a report has come out from Coeliac UK saying that clearer and more accurate labelling of products provide a lifeline for people with the condition. I agree. Coeliac UK revealed new research showing 76% of shoppers on gluten-free diets wanted products to be labelled with its cross-grain trademark, which is licensed by the charity to brand owners and is used by more than 90 suppliers to date. If you're from the UK, you will recognise the cross-grain symbol you might have seen on foods or restaurants. Yada yada yada. I 100% agree that food and things need to be labelled as clear as possible in terms of ingredients. I do not believe that the cross-grain logo needs to be on everything, and I say that for a couple of reasons. One, it actually costs quite a bit of money to have that cross-grain logo on there, so I feel like this research is very much a means to their own ends. And two, we have really good labelling laws here in the UK. Being able to trust in those labelling laws is really important for people, and I just don't believe we need to restrict ourselves to only buying things with the cross-grain logo, because there are this many things with the cross-grain logo that are safe to eat, and there's also this many things without the cross-grain logo that are also safe to eat. Sometimes buying things with the cross-grain logo is more expensive than not. So yeah, anyway, I found a really fun opinion piece. Help! My boyfriend demands I start eating gluten-free to support him. Thinking of breaking up with my boyfriend of 18 months over his gluten sensitivity. He spent years with health problems and finally got a diagnosis about 3 months ago. I thought this would be great news and help him feel better, but instead, he's basically throwing a tantrum. He's living with his parents right now and they are accommodating with gluten-free foods, but he insists on having their bread and beer, etc. when they have it, and then complaining when he feels sick. He won't let me eat gluten foods in front of him, say at a restaurant. He's starting to say I don't support him until I keep my apartment gluten-free too, which I don't want to. This feels controlling and gross to me, and he's not like this about anything else. I miss my pre-diagnosis boyfriend who didn't try to tell me what I could and couldn't eat. Is there a last chance conversation I can have with him to get him to stop before I walk? Now, the person that answered this echoes a lot of my own thoughts. Get rid of the boyfriend. Doesn't really sound like a gluten problem, sounds like a him problem. Of course, it's really amazing to have people support you in your gluten-free diet, and you should surround yourself with those people, but that doesn't mean, them forsaking gluten for the rest of their life. They should totally be able to eat what they want and, live their life how they want as well. Also, what a dingus. He still eats bread and beer anyway. What an idiot. Now, you thought that was bad. Read this one. I'm a restaurant worker, and if you order gluten-free, we assume you're a bitch. There was this TikTok that came out recently. Hopefully I can link it down below if you want to watch it yourself. It was basically a waitress saying about all of the things in the hospitality industry that you don't know, except they were kind of a bit weird. Like, some of them were like, we always steal a fry from your bowl of fries. Like, never done that in my life. I'd never take anything off anyone's plate, and I've never seen anyone do that in the many hospitality places I've worked in. And she also said, if you order gluten-free, we think you're a bitch. And this found its way to Coeliac TikTok, and this person got so roasted they had to make an apology video about it. Do you know what? It's just sad when things come out like this, because it's sort of, I know it feels like it's confirming your fears. When you go into a restaurant, like sometimes you go into a restaurant and you think, oh, they're going to hate me, they're going to think I'm so annoying. And that person saying that is really reflecting those fears. But I'm going to say this. Sure, some people can have opinions, but I do not think the majority of people serving you think you're a bitch for ordering gluten-free food, I promise. And even if they did, that seems like a them problem, Like, it's not a you problem, it's a them problem. Anyway, watch that TikTok if you like. I'll pop it in the link below. Okay, celebrity gluten-free news. Guess who's gluten-free? Megan Fox. And why did that come up? Because MGK tried to make cinnamon rolls for her, and apparently they were disgusting. That's the news. That was literally the article. Apparently he went on like Jimmy Fallon or something and told this fun little story about how he made really crap cinnamon rolls that were gluten-free. And it's made its way into mainstream media, which is really fun. Right, on to the main article today, Glute Guard. I'm going to be sort of looking at my computer because I wrote this, I drafted it out because I didn't want to get very specific things wrong, and I wanted to make sure I got all my points across. Now, I just want to say, this is me just doing some research, having my own opinions, looking into something on my own accord that I think will be helpful for other gluten-free people. But please do your own research. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. Just want to say that before I start. A couple of weeks ago, a post came across my Instagram feed, reading in text something along the lines of, now I can't quite remember, but something along the lines of, new celiac cure, have you heard of Glute Guard? And in the description of the post, this was a post from a celiac page, the celiac was insinuating that they thought that this drug would allow them to eat gluten again, specifically a donut. Obviously, I had alarm bells ringing. If you don't remember, a year or so ago, I looked into all of the drugs in development for celiac disease that were on the path for FDA approval, and Glute Guard had never come up. Seeing as it's quite a long process to get drugs FDA approved, had Glute Guard been close to that approval, I would have 100% talked about it. I would have seen it. I think a lot of people would have seen it. Just as a quick aside, FDA approval of a drug means that data on the drug's effects have been reviewed by the CDER, which is the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. And the drug is determined to provide benefits that outweigh its known and potential risks for the intended population. So that's what FDA approval is, if you've ever wondered. So this drug that the person was talking about was called Glute Guard, and I decided to do a little bit of digging on it. First stop, I headed to Glute Guard's Instagram to see what that was all about. The first post that I saw was a collaboration with a big gluten-free Instagram promoting the availability of this drug. Now, I feel certain ways about Instagrammers and pharmaceutical companies collaborating, but we'll talk about that later. Now, I was initially quite surprised at Glute Guard's marketing. A lot of headlines like "Guard against hidden gluten," reviews such as "Lifesaver, this product has really saved me in a lot of situations, and as long as I take my Glute Guard, I know I'm safe." Without digging deeper, I could understand why people were getting maybe a little bit of a wrong idea about what this drug actually was, like the post I was referring to. Now, when I say that, I do not mean that they're doing any sort of false advertising. They're not doing that. It's just that there is a certain vagueness that sometimes leads people to fill in the gaps for themselves. Sometimes that can be wrong. So I took a specific look at this collaboration post, and in the comments, a lot of people were rightly asking questions. I'm going to tell you something right now, my friends. This is a good piece of life advice. If you are asking questions about a product and the person and or company responds with, "I'll DM you," they're either trying to get you to buy into a multi-level marketing scheme, or they are trying to keep some specific information away from the advertisement post. Because if you think about it, at the end of the day, why would you not just answer 50 people asking the same question in the post so everyone can see instead of DMing them all, you know? Some people might think that's a bit suspicious. Let's see a little bit more about what Glute Guard is about. On their website, this is what it says. Glute Guard is a drug developed by Glutagen. Glutagen is a biopharmaceutical company based in Melbourne, Australia, that is dedicated to developing clinically relevant and evidence-based complementary medicines for those with celiac disease and gluten-related disorders. I'm not hating on that. I love that for us. More research, I love it. Any day, any day. On their website, they say that when taken before a meal, Glute Guard's enteric coating ensures quick delivery to the small intestines where its enzymes are released. The enzymes target and break down the gluten peptides into harmless fragments, which then follow through the normal digestive process without causing symptoms or immune activation. Glute Guard was extensively researched, just remember that word, extensively, and developed in vitro and later studied in randomized placebo-controlled clinical trials. These explored Glute Guard's efficiency in people with gluten-related disorders and demonstrated that it was successful at protecting participants against the symptoms and related effects caused by a daily gluten challenge. So simply put, this drug is not for people to take and then eat gluten. Absolutely not, but rather an extra layer of prevention before eating gluten in case something goes wrong. Now that's definitely something I could see people being super interested in. Not necessarily me, but some people I can imagine would love that. So anyway, let's flick our minds back to that post I saw. After just doing this a little bit of research, I decided that I would put up a short story saying that this was not intended for celiacs to take and then eat gluten. That's not what this drug is about. And I put that up simply just because I saw people mistaking the use of it. I did mention Glute Guard in the story, but I didn't tag them. That's important. So I went to bed and I didn't think too much more about it. And in the morning, I woke up to the longest message I've ever received on Instagram from Glute Guard themselves. Interesting, because I didn't even tag them. I don't know how they saw it. And their message read, "Hi Morgan, I would like to provide you some more information around Glute Guard so you can provide your followers with accurate information. Unfortunately, Australian regulations prevent all suppliers of pharmaceutical products from referring to diseases in advertisements and public statements. With regards to Glute Guard, this means that in any form of advertising, we're not allowed to mention celiac disease. The alternative term suggested by the TGA is medically diagnosed gluten sensitivity instead." Fine, don't have a problem with that. If you can't mention celiac disease, that's fine. Not really my issue though. Glute Guard was developed for anyone who follows a strict gluten-free diet, including those with celiac disease, and who want to help protect themselves from the effects of accidentally consuming gluten, which is a real and common risk when eating out, traveling and eating foods prepared by others. Yeah, I'm aware. Glute Guard is used by many celiacs. Furthermore, Australian GPs and dietitians recommend Glute Guard to celiac patients who need help in maintaining a gluten-free diet. When taken before a meal, Glute Guard is uniquely able to break down the small amounts of gluten that may be hidden in meals before it interacts with the intestinal lining. In this way, double-blinded, randomized, placebo-controlled trials in celiac patients demonstrated that Glute Guard helps protect against symptoms caused by a daily gluten challenge, which resembles accidental gluten ingestion. Note, Glute Guard is not a replacement for a gluten-free diet. So we both agree. Then they linked me to a webinar about it. Cool. Please let me know if you need clarification on any of the medical terminology used. Okay, sassy. And then it keeps going. Importantly, as you know from the joint statement from Coeliac Australia and Glute Guard, the only treatment for celiac disease is a strict gluten-free diet. Yes, I am aware of that. It just feels weird that you're saying it's not a treatment, but doctors are suggesting people use it with their gluten-free diet. Okay. It is rather intended to assist in the maintenance of a gluten-free diet by protecting against the symptoms of accidental gluten ingestion. I hope this clears up your misconceptions about Glute Guard and the Australian regulatory restrictions about advertising pharmaceutical products for celiac disease. Let me know if you have any questions. Since your post is already live without consultation, didn't realise I needed your permission, we would appreciate it if you could help clear this up with your followers so we can ensure the correct message is getting out about this very beneficial product. My God, I need a drink of water. How long was that? So I replied, hello, wave emoji. Firstly, the reason this was brought to my attention is because I was seeing celiacs post about this saying it's a cure and now can go have this and eat a donut. I directed people to the Coeliac Australia article so they can find out for themselves. I won't be taking the post down. Thank you. X, because I was being a little bit sassy back. Ugh, shoot me. And then they reply again. After this, I did post a few more stories about this. And they said, hi Morgan, thank you for your message and your recent stories. Which was a bit sassy, because I don't think my stories were in any way doing what they wanted me to do. But anyway, our priority is for people, particularly those with autoimmune conditions, to learn about Glute Guard from trusted sources of information and healthcare professional advice. Yep, that's fine. I'm literally talking about people getting the wrong idea about this drug. That's what I'm talking about. All our advertising and educational materials for healthcare professionals stress that Glute Guard is not recommended to be used as a replacement for a gluten-free diet. I know. We rarely hear from people misusing the product, and if we do, we make sure to reiterate its intended usage. Can you please point out the specific comments or messages implying deliberate consumption of gluten? We can't seem to find them, thank you. Well, that's because at this stage, I did privately message that person and say, hey, just so you know, that's not what this drug's for. And they'd taken the post down, that's why these people couldn't find it, but okay. Please let us know if you'd like to read more about the research behind Glute Guard. Most of the information is directed to healthcare professionals, but we can share them with you if you like. Best regards, the Glute Guard team. I was pretty done with them at this point, so I put hello again, another wave emoji. I've seen posts, a specific post that piqued my interest has since been taken down. I've had messages from people who've misinterpreted the use of Glute Guard in the first instance, which is very true. Regardless of this strange corporate Instagram DMs, I'm going to still continue to talk about Glute Guard and all of the drugs in development for people that are on a gluten-free diet because people are seeking clarification on some aspects, and at the end of the day, the best way people can make decisions is if they have all the info. Thank you for the offer, but I can do my own research. Best regards, Morgan, journalist, GFN. I was feeling sassy. Oh dear. If they were trying to discourage me from talking about it more, they should really understand that spite is a powerful, powerful motivator in my life, and now here we are. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the clinical trials that they ran for this drug, because I think it's very important to talk about. The trial, from what I can tell, was twofold. They ran one for people with celiac disease and one for people specifically with dermatitis herpetiformis, which I've say so many times, but I can never remember where the consonants end up. How many people were in each trial? It's a very important, valid question. There were 20 people in each trial, bearing in mind that the drugs that I looked at in my drug trial, which were in phase 2 and 3 of celiac challenges, were into their hundreds. But that's just what you have to do for FDA approval. So 20 patients with celiac disease were challenged with 1 gram of gluten per day over the course of 42 days. 14 people got the drug and 6 of them got a placebo. Also, intestinal biopsies and antibodies were assessed prior and after the 42-day challenge, which is good. Unfortunately, not everyone could complete this trial. 67% of the placebo group had to abandon the trial because of the severity of their symptoms, and 14% of patients in the Glute Guard group also abandoned their trial before they could complete the 42-day challenge. That does actually point to pretty good results for people who were in the Glute Guard drug trial that weren't on the placebo because they weren't getting the symptoms. They didn't have to abandon the trial, which is really good. But once again, we need to remember that's a pool of 14 celiacs. That's all. A little bit more information. 5 of the patients that were taking Glute Guard reported that they had no symptoms at the end of the trial, while 7 of the 14 reported only mild symptoms. At the end, there were no detrimental changes in the small bowel histology for the treatment group, which is really good sign. It means that there is no more or less damage than they had at the start. So that is really promising results, and the results were also pretty promising for the dermatitis herpetiformis group as well. But I do have to stress that it's not a large pool of people that they're running these tests on, and they may have plans to do more tests or are currently running more tests at the moment, but at the moment it's not a lot of information to go on. I just feel like we could do with a lot more data in this, in my opinion. Also on their website, they have a list of people's concerns and answers to that, and they were concerns that I share. In fact, one of the first ones I saw was Glute Guard clinical trials are too small, and their response to this was, Glute Guard trials used a gluten challenge to induce symptoms in medically diagnosed participants. The studies were designed to follow gluten effects in blood biomarkers and intestinal histology throughout the study. The study designed, sample size, and participant allocation was designed to achieve statistically significant outcome. So basically, they disagree. Other things that I initially thought about was like, does this really protect from intestinal damage? In response to that, they said intestinal damage is often caused by regular and inadvertent consumption of gluten. Glute Guard helps break down gluten before this interacts with the small intestinal lining. Then they go on to say Glute Guard's clinical trials show that despite consuming 1 gram of gluten for 42 days, intestinal damage was not exacerbated in patients using Glute Guard before meals, suggesting protection against damage. But they do also reference in this part saying further clinical trials are needed to explore the long-term effect of Glute Guard in celiac intestinal health. So you agree? Oh, another interesting question. Can Glute Guard be taken after consuming gluten? Glute Guard was not researched to be used after consuming meals. It's not recommended, but it could offer symptom protection. It's not recommended, but it could offer symptom protection. That's a weird way to put it. They don't know, so why would they say it could? I guess anything could. It could also make you grow wings and fly, I guess. Well, that's a bit silly. In my research, I was also particularly surprised by a podcast episode with Ben from a Gluten Free podcast, which I've recently been on. Go listen to that episode. Love Ben. He actually interviewed the general manager of Glutagen, Ezekiel Pena, and he had him on to discuss the drug. A couple of things made me go, in that. So he said in the trial the participants were told to take the pill immediately before eating gluten, but on the packet it recommends 15 to 30 minutes before eating. He didn't discuss how it was found out that that was more effective, so I was like, okay, how do you know? Ezekiel also likened selling the product to an unofficial 4th phase clinical trial. So as we're talking about FDA approval, the clinical trials, there's 4 stages of them. In the 4th phase clinical trial, in like an FDA approval sense, the main objective is to check the drug's performance in real-life scenarios, to study the long-term risks and benefits of using the drug, and to discover any rare side effects. So it's offered to the general population, but monitored more closely. I believe Ezekiel said that his feedback, the research that they were getting, came from customer reviews online. Not necessarily the level of research that I'm personally happy with, but all good. Also, he was likening this to the 4th phase of a clinical trial. Like, where's the 2nd and 3rd trials? Like, where's the hundreds, if not thousands of people that you test this on? But that's just me. Also, for reference, 4th phase clinical trials only happen once they're approved. I want to make it abundantly clear that I am in no way saying their research is wrong. I actually think it's an amazing thing to find a specific enzyme from a papaya, which I didn't mention before. The enzyme actually comes from a papaya. And that can particularly target and break down gluten. I think that's amazing, especially because I saw other drugs also going down that route when I did my clinical drug trial video. My opinion is that for me to feel comfortable taking this, I would need to see a bigger trial on a much wider group of people. I don't think 20 people, 5 of which dropped out, is enough for me to personally work with. But that's just me. I also have some opinions about the relevance of this drug that you might echo as well. Like, I'm quite lucky. I personally don't have intense reactions to glutenings. I don't feel great, you've seen in the videos, but I'm not ending up in hospital, I'm not projectile vomiting. But when I do react to things, it's actually a really integral part of my own learning about what I can and can't have, what is too much of a risk. And it's teaching me you should be asking more questions. It's teaching me that's not a risk you should take. It's part of my learning of having celiac disease. I think if I was relying on Glute Guard before I went out to eat a meal, it would probably increase my personal hypervigilance if I didn't have it on me. Would that make me feel really worried about eating out? Would that make me turn down opportunities, turn down dinners, etc.? Become a little bit more insular than I already am. On the other side of that, if I was to be relying on a drug like this, would I take more risks? Would I be more inclined to eat may contains? Would I be more inclined to choose things that probably weren't the safest option? I actually think that's a really important thing to study as well. Like, does this affect decision-making, risk-taking if you've got celiac disease? I think that's really important to look at as well. Actually, now that I'm saying this out loud, it's quite similar to my thoughts on the NEMA sensor, but hey, that's a whole other video. Also in my research, I noticed that if someone had some sort of criticism of Glute Guard, it would usually be followed up by a message from Glute Guard themselves going, I wish they would have consulted us before posting something like this. Like, chill, people are allowed to criticize, people are allowed to question, especially when it's something to do with it, like an entire lifestyle dietary requirement, But anyway, a really important resource that I found on this was a joint statement by Coeliac Australia and Glute Guard that really highlighted the information that you need to know, saying basically it is not intended to replace a gluten-free diet. A gluten-free diet is the only thing that is recommended for celiacs at this stage. We'll link that below as well. I linked it on my Instagram and I said, have a read of this, tell me what you think about Glute Guard. So here's some other people's opinions. Sounds great if you've been accidentally glutened and need relief. It would sound good, but it's not for that. A load of crap. This just makes no sense. Another person said, it's been helpful for being scared to eat out in public. I can't have more than one a day without feeling yuck. Marketing I've seen is vague and potentially confusing to celiacs, kind of dangerous in my opinion. Might be a nice thing when trying a new restaurant, but definitely wouldn't intentionally eat gluten. What's the point to it if you still have to follow a strict gluten-free diet? Another great point. Someone else said, so you're supposed to keep a gluten-free diet, and this does what? Cost you money? I take one when eating out just in case of cross-contamination, still eat strictly gluten-free. Even the Coeliac Australia article isn't clear. I won't be bothering with this product. They need to clarify whenever they advertise that it's not for celiacs, super dangerous otherwise. Well, it is for celiacs. Celiacs can use it, but it's not for the intended use of being able to eat gluten again. Looks too good to be true for us celiacs, I'm not gonna lie. Feels like the marketing and research could get a bit muddly and confuse people. Plan B for celiacs. Now if you could take it after glutening and it just stopped you being gluten, stop damage. Hilarious marketing. Like to know about the clinical trials. Were they peer reviewed or just published by the company? Actually, I don't remember reading that they were peer reviewed. If they were, I apologise, but I did not see that. They funded their own clinical trials, so the evidence would be biased. So it is a bit of a mix of people saying could be a good idea, people saying it's confusing marketing, people saying that they'd like to take it after they've been gluten, which sort of takes us back to the confusing marketing because that's not what it's for. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to make this to put more information out there. Do your own research. Have your own opinions. Do what's best for you. If you think this is a great product, all power to you. My opinion, I don't like it. I don't like their marketing. I think they're a bit vague. I don't like how they are sort of a bit on the defensive with anyone that tries to criticize them. I don't like how they are collaborating with influencers because, in my opinion, that makes it look like all they care about is earning money. I don't like how when they did the collaboration, they keep specific information off the post with the old DMU. That puts a really bad taste in my mouth. And yeah, they've kind of given me the ick, if I'm being honest. That's my opinion. Alright, hopefully this was a little bit of use for you. I don't know if it cleared things up or made it even more confusing. At the end of the day, it is what it is. I hope you have a lovely Christmas if you celebrate, a lovely break if you're having one. Happy New Year. I will see you in one more video before the end of the year. Hopefully you're going to do some good eating over the break if that's on the cards. It's certainly on my cards. On Christmas Eve, I'm going to Ada Waffle. And on Christmas Day, I've ordered a bunch of Manaju pastries that have shown up. They're in the freezer currently. But yeah, it's going to be good. Best wishes. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.